So I get asked a lot privately within my alliance about what to do with refinement, what to go for, what's good, what's bad, and I always end up pointing people towards army size, and I think for most people, it is the best stat in the game in refinement, and I'll explain. So, it's the only stat in the game which will actually give you a value that is higher than what is shown on the refinement screen itself. This is because 40% attack, it will always be 40% attack for that one troop size. But 30k army size will, if you're doing anything PvP related, should always be 45,000 at minimum, because it's passive army size and therefore gets multiplied with army size increase scrolls. And you should always have at least a 50% up at minimum at all times, and you can buy these daily from the VIP shop for 2.5k diamonds. Just buy them up preemptively, so you should never run out, really. And obviously it will be 52,500 army size with a 75% and 60,000 with a 100%. And then if you actually do the maths with those numbers, the additional numbers in solo actions like solo attacks, garrisons, will provide more effectiveness than any other possible alternative refinement that buffs your own stats, like 40% attack, total attack, up to a certain point of diminishing returns, which you can only really reach if you're wailing hard. I'll explain. So, here's the maths. So, this is for a full T4 cav march, which is fairly unrealistic in PvP because you're never really sending like full tier 4 of one unit. I mean, if you're rallying in like the top alliances and you're rallying huge whales, you sort of have to do one troop rallies, because if you're rallying into like 5 mil all tier 4 of Inf Cav Spear, you need all that counter damage on the front line, or you'll just get wrecked. Plus, you won't really break past the front line, so it will just be wasted if you have other troop types to counter what's behind their front line. But you can see here, Tier 4 Cav has 105 attack. So, that's what it will be at 400% Cav attack, just as a random number. And this is what it will be at 440% cav attack with the refinement slot. So if you have no army size refinement, but have the cav attack refinement, it will do this much at 100k troops. And then you can see these lower numbers before the diminishing returns kicks in. Army size is already better, significantly, just with the attack stats, not talking about health or defense, which also plays a part. And then obviously with a 50% scroll and a 75% scroll, it pulls way ahead. And then at 500k troops, it becomes a bit closer. Without the army size, it's actually a little better than just with the army size, but no scroll. But then with the scroll, army size pulls out ahead again, and then even more so as you go up in the higher buffs of the army sizes. But then like a 1 mil march, the full troop attack does pull ahead, and then with rally size, like the huge rally sizes, even more so. But the only way to really hit these numbers on solo attacks, if you don't have army size and refinement, is if you have like all the owned bonuses from castle skins, like the Sapphire Dragon for its passive army buff, all that sort of stuff. So for most of us, we won't be hitting these numbers anyway, even with army size increases, without army size and refinement, so it doesn't really count. Plus, all these numbers are with just one unit, which is very unrealistic for us to be using in PvP. So I did the maths for, say, Spear Cav, with 30-30-40 splits, so 30% tier 3 Spear, 30% tier 4 Spear, and 40% tier 4 Cav. The same again, the 400% baseline attacks on both. And then you can see here, even with the 1 mil march size. We have the buffed attack on the cav here, and then not the spear, and it does 502 million attack. And then if you reduce the cav attack down to losing that 40%, it will only do 500, but then when you add the army increase, it goes to 507 million, so it's 5 million more than the troop attack, and then even more so as you go up in the army sizes. And even if you swap the attack to the front line, because in this scenario there's a little more numbers weighted towards the front line, so there's a bit more bias there. It has 505 million there, attack, and then without the army size increase only has 500 mil, but again with the army size increase it goes to 507 mil, so it's even higher again. So in all realistic troop compositions, army size is actually pulling more attack than an individual troop attack will in Refinement by itself. And this is huge because 1, this is only considering attack. Obviously you buff up your health and defense stats on your march through having more troops there as well. And 2, army size provides so many more benefits in other situations than individual troop attack. For example, army size gives formational flexibility, while something like Imp Cav Spear Attack or Imp Cav Spear Health only buff that one unit, and with Health especially only buff that one unit on the front line. So the stats can just be wasted if you find yourself in a situation where you really need to change from what you want to send, because you're just going to get hard countered. Whereas army size will just always benefit you no matter what you're sending, because more troops is always better. And then in events, like the Siege of Winterfell meta seems to be 3 times mono unit marches. You can build for bows, but most people don't have their castle set up for that realistically. Like if you go full bow attack, that's probably better, but I don't think most of us have that luxury. So realistically you should have 1 imp march, 1 cav march, 1 spear march, and then army size is giving you 90,000 extra troops there across the 3, whereas if you have like spear attack, it will only give 40% spear attack to that 1 spear march. It won't do anything for the other 2. So then it's 90,000 versus 40%, and we've already done the maths and you can see how 45,000 is already better. And then in AC there's no troop limit, there's only a reinforcer limit. So the more troops you get in as reinforcements the better. And for most people you'll be using other people's stats anyway, so it's just a bonus. And even if you're abandoning yourself defending stuff, you'll still be reinforcing other locations if they get rallied, so it still pays off. And then there's obviously the caveat that I hear a lot of. Army size does nothing for you when defending, it becomes a dead slot. Which is true to an extent. It can actually indirectly help you defend your castle. So if you have 100k army size in Refinement, this will be 150k extra soldiers per march, at least. And I am very much of the belief that at this point in the game, with the likes of blockade, rally speed up seemingly being everywhere in abundance in these top alliances, which you will encounter in some case, if you're in KVK, CCS, getting invaded, whatever, that you need to be able to blank your castle from rallies at least. Unless you're a huge spender in like CTP or something and you can tank rallies with full dragons, 15 mil troops, full reinforcements every time. But if you're not one of them, having all that extra army size really helps you blank more troops, which helps you run more troops in your castle, and then you can actually defend better through that, by either having more troops to defend with, or just simply being able to defend via not allowing your troops to be exposed in more situations. Like even if you're a true zero castle, and you want to blank with just shelter fake rally 1 march, and you have 100k army size and refinement, that will be 300k realistically extra troops hidden in that fake rally and the one march. So if you're tanking solos at any point, with that being the case, army size is in fact helping you defend because you have 300k more troops at home doing and taking damage. And that's why army size is so good in Refinement. It has so many benefits. There's not really many downsides to it. It obviously depends on what you're doing of your castle. Like if you're very rarely solo attacking, it might not be as worth it. But for things like events, it just gives so many buffs. It's by far the best event refinement slot. Maybe rally size will be better now of the new AC changes. But you can run both, obviously. So it isn't either or. I personally run army size on every slot, and I think most people should do the same.